Quick scenario, it's a random Tuesday. Your car breaks down on the way to work. The repair bill comes back at $838, which, by the way, is the actual average cost of a car repair in 2025, according to Kelley Blue Book. Do you have that money sitting somewhere you can access today? Not on a credit card, not from a family member, actually yours in an account right now. If the answer made you a little uncomfortable, you're not alone. And that's exactly what this video is about. Here's how common that uncomfortable feeling actually is. According to Bankrate's 2025 Emergency Savings Report, 24% of Americans have no emergency savings at all, and only 46% have enough to cover 3 months of expenses. That means more than half of people are financially exposed to whatever life throws at them next. The Federal Reserve's 2025 Survey of Household Economics found that more than a third of Americans are just one surprise car repair, medical bill, or housing crisis away from serious financial stress. And here's the thing, this isn't a conversation about being bad with money. It's about not having a system. An emergency fund is that system. It's the one financial tool that sits underneath everything else, your budget, your savings goals, your debt payoff plan. Without it, one bad week can unravel months of financial progress. So let's talk about what it actually is, how much you actually need, and how to build one without feeling overwhelmed. Part 1. What an emergency fund actually is. An emergency fund is a dedicated amount of cash set aside specifically for unexpected expenses, not for vacations, not for a new phone, not for anything you planned. Strictly for the unplanned stuff. Think job loss, a medical bill, a broken boiler, a burst pipe. Those things don't send a calendar invite, they just show up. And when they do, the question is whether you can handle them with cash or whether you have to handle them with debt. The key word is dedicated. This isn't just money sitting in your checking account that you might spend. It lives in a separate savings account, somewhere accessible within a day, but not so easy to dip into that you're tempted on a regular Tuesday when nothing is wrong. Part 2. How much do you actually need? Here's where people either get paralyzed by a number that feels impossible or set a target that's too small to actually help them. Fidelity suggests building an emergency fund of at least 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. And that's expenses, not income. That means rent, utilities, debts, and food, not the non-essential things you'd cut first if things got tight, like entertainment and dining out. Now, where in that 3 to 6 month range should you land? It depends on your situation. Here's a simple way to think about it. Closer to 3 months if you have a stable job with a reliable salary, a dual income household, low fixed expenses, and no dependents. Closer to 6 months if you're self-employed or do freelance work, you're the sole earner in your household. You work in an industry that's more vulnerable to layoffs, or you have dependents relying on your income. To put a real number on it, Investopedia calculated that 6 months of emergency expenses for a typical American household in 2025 comes to around $35,218, factoring in housing, utilities, food, medical care, and car costs. That's the full picture for a household. Your number will be different, but it gives you a sense of the scale. Part 3, where to keep it. Your emergency fund has one job: to be there when you need it. So, it needs 2 things. It needs to be accessible, and it needs to not be so tempting that you spend it on something that isn't an emergency. A high-yield savings account is the go-to choice. It keeps your money separate from your everyday spending. It earns some interest while it sits there, and you can typically access it within 1 business day. When you need to access your emergency savings, consider withdrawing from more liquid accounts first. A savings account is easily accessed at no cost on the same day. What you want to avoid: keeping it in your checking account where it blends with spending money, or locking it in a long-term CD where early withdrawal penalties apply. Let's meet 2 people in the same situation. Priya and Marcus both lose their jobs on the same day. Same industry, same city, same monthly expenses, $3,000 a month covering rent, food, utilities, and their car payment. Priya has an emergency fund. She's been putting away $200 a month for the past 18 months, so she has $3,600 saved in a high-yield savings account. That covers her for just over a month, which isn't quite 3 months, but it gives her time. She doesn't panic. She doesn't touch her credit card. She applies for jobs, takes a couple of weeks to find the right fit, and lands something in 6 weeks. Total cost, $4,200 in living expenses, mostly covered by her fund. She comes out the other side with minimal damage. Marcus has no emergency fund. Day 1, he's already stressed about next month's rent. Week 2, the car needs a repair, $600 he doesn't have, so it goes on the credit card at 24% interest. By the time he finds a new job, 8 weeks later, he's accumulated $2,400 in credit card debt on top of missed savings. He's now paying interest on that debt while trying to rebuild, which makes everything harder and slower. Same job loss, same timeline. The only difference was $3,600 sitting in a savings account. According to Bankrate, 37% of U.S. adults needed to tap their emergency savings at some point in the last 12 months. Most of them used it for essentials, unplanned expenses, monthly bills, day-to-day costs. This isn't a hypothetical. It's happening to more than a third of people every single year. So, here's the short version. An emergency fund is cash set aside specifically for the unexpected, separate from your everyday money, accessible quickly, not easy to accidentally spend. The target is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, 3 months if your income is stable and predictable, 6 months if you're self-employed, a sole earner, or work in a volatile industry. And if that number feels huge right now, that's okay. Start with $500, then $1,000. Having $500 in a savings account could help pay for a surprise car repair or medical bill without going into debt. Small progress on these matters more than people realize, because even a small fund changes your options in a crisis. Drop a comment and tell me, do you have an emergency fund right now? No judgment either way. I'm genuinely curious where people are starting from, and it helps me know what to cover next. Next up, we're getting into good debt versus bad debt, because not all debt is the same, and that distinction can actually change how you make financial decisions. Subscribe so you catch it.